Our today's topic will be China. End of Theme 11, that is Parts to Modernization. Now you turn your book to page 243. The modern history of China has revolved around the question of how to regain sovereignty and of these foreign occupations and bring about equality and development. And now let's see these three approaches of China. Kang Youwei, 1858 to 1927, or Liang Qichao, 1873 to 1929, used traditional ideas in new and different ways to meet the challenges posed by the West. And Republican revolutionaries like this Sun Yat-sen was inspired by the ideas from this Japan and the West, and the Communist Party of China, that is CCP, wanted to end these age-old inequalities and drive out the foreigners in China. And next we go to encounter with West. First encounter of the China with the West was in the 16th and the 17th century. Here Jesuit missionaries introduced Western sciences like astronomy and mathematics, and Britain used force to expand its lucrative trades in opium. This leads to First Opium War in 1839 and 1942. Okay, and this undermined the ruling Qing dynasty and strengthened demands for reforms and change. And now we go to the opium trade. Britain bought tea, silk, and porcelain from China, and these Western goods did not find a market in China, so payment had to be done in silver, and this created a serious balance of trade problem, and the East India Company found a new options, that is opium, which grew in China, and they sold the opium in China and regained this silver. Okay, and next is ideas of Qing reformers such as Kang Youwei and Liang Qichao. They initiated policies to build a modern administration system and a new army and an educational system, and set up local assemblies to establish this constitutional government. And they show the needs to protect China from these colonizations, and the partitions of this Poland. Company rule in India influenced these Chinese thinkers. Okay, and this Liang Qichao criticized these Indians for being cruel to their own people and subservient to the British. Okay, and now we go to this influence of Confucianism. Confucianism developed from the teachings of Confucius, 1551 to 551 to 479 BCE. Disciples of Confucius was concerned with good conduct, practical wisdom, and proper social relationship. It influenced the Chinese attitude towards life. It provided these social standards and laid the basis for these political theories and institutions. And it was now seen as a major bearer to new ideas and institutions in China. Okay, and now we go to this influence of foreign education in China. Chinese students were sent to study in Japan, Britain, and France and bring back new ideas. And they not only brought back new ideas, but many become these leading Republicans. And the Chinese even borrowed these Japanese translations of these European words like this justice, rights, and revolution. So in 1905, the centuries-old Chinese examination system gave the candidates entry into this elite ruling class and was abolished. And next we go to establishing the Republic 1911, nationalist Republican revolutions of 1911 and 12. Sun Yat-sen, 1866 to 1925, was the leaders of the revolution in 1911 to 1912, okay? And the Manchu's empire was overthrown and the republic was established in 1911 under the Sun Yat-sen. And Sun Yat-sen is an unanimously regarded as the founders of this modern China, okay? And this Sun Yat-sen come from a very poor family, and he studied in missionary schools where he was introduced to this democracy and Christianity, okay? And he studied this medicine but was greatly concerned about the fate of China, and his program was called the Three Principles, okay? And let's see the three principles of this Sun Yat-sen. First is called nationalism. Nationalism meant overthrowing the foreign Manchus and other foreign imperialists in China. And number two is democracy. It means establishing democratic government in China. And number three is socialism. It means regulating capital and equalizing land holdings in China. Okay? And now let's see this May 4th movement in China. Why is this May 4th movement in China very important? Okay. On 4th May 1919, an angry demonstration was held in Beijing to protest against the decisions of this post-war peace conference. So, despite being an ally of the victorious sides led by this Britain, China did not get big the territory seized from it, and the protest became a movement, and it galvanized a whole generation to attack these traditions and to call for this saving China through this modern science, democracy, and nationalism. Okay, and these revolutionaries uh, call for this driving out these foreigners who were controlling the country's resources to remove inequalities and reduce poverty. So they advocated reforms uh, and they used this simple language in writing, and abolishing this practice of food bindings, and subordinations of this woman's equality in marriage, and the economic development, and to end this poverty. And now we go to China after Republican revolutions of 1911. The Kuomintang, that is the National People's Party, and the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, emerged as major forces striving to unite the country and bring this stability in China. Okay, Kuomintang, the Nationalist People's Party. Sun Yat-sen's idea became the basis of the political philosophy of this Kuomintang. Okay, and they identified the four great needs as clothing, food, housing, and transportation. So, after the deaths of the Sun Yat-sen, Chiang Kai-shek, 1887 to 1975, emerged as the leaders of this Kuomintang. So, Chiang Kai-shek launched a military campaign to control the warlords and to eliminate these communists, and he advocated a secular and rational, this worldly Confucianism, and also sought to militarize the nations. Okay, and he encouraged women to cultivate the four virtues of this chastity: appearance, speech, and work, and recognize their role as confined to the household. So social and cultural change was helped along by the spread of the schools and universities, and the Peking University was established in 1902. And let's see the rise of this Communist Party of China. Let's see the background. The Japanese invaded China in 1937, and the Kuomintang retreated. The long and exhausting war weakened this China, and the price hike destroyed the lives of these ordinary people, and the rural China faced crisis. Okay, firstly, in ecology with soil exhaustion and these deforestations and floods, and secondly, on socio-economic caused by this exploitation exploitative land tenure systems and indebtedness, primitive technologies, and poor communication. So the Komintans or the Third Internationals, that is in 1911, Russian leaders Lenin and this Trotsky established this Komintern or the Third Internationals in March 1918 to help and bring about the world government that would end this exploitation. And it initially appealed across these national boundaries and was immense, but it soon became a tool for the Soviet interest and was dissolved in 1943. And now we go to Chinese Communist Party, CCP. The, the CCP had been founded in 1921, soon after these Russian revolutions, and Mao Zedong 1893 to 1973 emerged as a major CCP leaders. Mao stressed the need for an independent government and army, and also he was aware of this women problem and supported the emergence of these rural women's associations and promulgated a new marriage law that forbade the arranged marriage, and he stopped this purchase or sale of marriage contract and simplified his divorce. Okay, and during this China-Japanese War 1939 to 45, the communists and the Kuomintang they worked together. And now let's go to this Long March 1934 to 35. Long March was a military retreat undertaken by the Red Army of this Communist Party of China to evade the pursuit of this Kuomintang army from this Jiangxi southeast to Shan is the northeast. Okay, and the march cover 6,000 miles and miles, and this won them a strong social base. Okay, and next we go to these communist revolutions of 1949 and establishments of the People Republic of China. Civil war between this China and the Communist Party, CCP, and the Nationalist Party or this Kuomintang broke out immediately following the Second World War in 1945, and the Kuomintang was defeated and the People Republic of China was established in October 1st, 1949 by this Mao Zedong. Okay, establishing new democracy in 1949 to 53 in China. Let's see here. The People's Republic of China's government was established in 1949. It was based on the principles of the new democracy and alliance of all social classes. Unlike these dictatorships of the proletariat, the Soviet Union said it had established, and this program lasted till 1953 when the government declared that it would launch programs of these socialist transformations. And now let's go to the Great Leap Forward movement 1958. The Great Leap Forward movement was launched in 1958 by this Mao Zedong, and this policy was to industrialize China rapidly, and people were encouraged to set up steel furnaces in their backyards and in the rural areas. People communes were started. Okay, and this, let's see, socialist man and five loves of Mao. Mao Zedong wanted to create a socialist man, and a socialist man must have five loves, that is fatherland, people, labor, science, and public property. Okay, and now we go to these reforms from 1978. Deng Xiaoping introduced a socialist market economy, and in 1978 the party declared its goal as the four modernizations, means to develop science, industry, agriculture, and defense. And debate was allowed as long as the party was not questioned, and there was an exciting of new ideas in 1978 as at the time of the May 4th movement 60 years earlier. And now we go to the story of Taiwan. Chiang Kai-shek was defeated by the CCP and fled in 1949 to Taiwan, and he established the Republic of China in Taiwan. And this Taiwan had been the Spanish colony since the Chinese ceded it after this 1894 to 95 and war with Japan. And in February 1947, a massive demonstrations had led the Kuomintang to brutally kill a whole generations of leading figures. So this Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek established a repressive government, and this Kuomintang carried out these land reforms that increased agricultural productivity and modernized the economy. And so after the death of Chiang in 1975, transformation started in China, and martial law was lifted in 1987, and opposition parties were legally permitted, and the first free elections became the process of bringing these local Taiwanese to power. Okay, and next, let's go to this two roads to modernizations. First, let's see Japan. Roads to modernization. Japan was successful in retaining its independence and use of traditional skills and practices in new ways, and also generated an aggressive nationalism and sustained a repressive regimes, and they established a colonial empire and modernized in an environment dominated by these western imperial powers. Okay, and lastly, let's see China roads to modernization. The China experienced foreign imperialism, both western and Japanese, weak this weak Qing dynasty ruled China. So the breakdowns of this political and social order leads to immense misery for most of the people there. And there was warlordism, banditry, and these civil wars and natural disaster was there. And so this the CCP and its supporters fought to put an end to these traditions and carried out market reforms in China, and has been successful in making China economically powerful. But their political system continues to be tightly controlled, and the society now face growing inequalities as well as these revivals of these traditions of this long suppressed. Okay, khati zong kha voina kan explain thei chun ya ti chuan document in note karon pele don chewa in lo by hat vek don ya chuanin I note karon pek note a hianin question pakhat karon da dona chu question chu ka explanation atang hianin in lo chang don ya. Oh, thank you all.